tells the story of the rainbow, and also almost equally, even though it's not in the title of the film, it almost equally tells the story of the whiskey, which is owned by the same people, the Maglieri family. And the really great thing about this Rainbow doc is that they started production on it while Mario Maglieri, who started the whole thing, was still alive. Mario sadly passed away, I guess, a year or two ago. And also Lemmy, who is synonymous with the Rainbow, was also alive when production for this documentary started. So Lemmy and Mario, fittingly, are featured fairly prominently in the documentary. I think that was really great to see that both of them were still with us at the time that they started doing this, because they obviously both have huge roles in the history. Mario creating the thing, and Lemmy being just a fixture there on that bar, to the point that the outside lounge is now called Lemmy's Lounge, and there's a statue of him and all that sort of stuff. So it's a real great story of the Maglieri family and how it's been passed down now to Mario's son and now his son, and those guys are all featured in it. And then as far as artists that are featured in it, Slash is prominently interviewed in it. Obviously, Guns N' Roses with a huge history there, which I didn't even realize. Slash tells a story about when they were doing the video for You Could Be Mine, some of the performance stuff was shot at the Roxy, which is right next door. But while they were waiting for things to be set, they were sitting in the Rainbow drinking. And he said there's that scene of them walking out of the Rainbow, and you see them all stumbling and staggering, and that was not for effect. That was for reality, because they sat for like 5 hours waiting for a shot to get set up and just decided, well, let's just drink at the Rainbow. But there were a lot of moments of Guns N' Roses videos that were shot inside of there in the booths. It talks about the Rainbow before it was the Rainbow, the restaurant that it was briefly. It talks about the type of place that it was. Matt Sorum is also in it. Stephen Riley from LA Guns and Wasp also featured in the interview segments. There's some other artists as well featured in it that just escaped me at the moment. But there's a bunch of artists that they talk to, and then people that are just regulars at the Rainbow, like Ron Jeremy, the porn star, who's there to this day every night at the Rainbow. And there's footage of Lemmy sitting there playing the machine, which everybody knows, and then, of course, them dedicating that patio to Lemmy. So it's a nice piece. It's a nice doc. It's not very long. It's a little over an hour about this historic L.A. landmark. And, they kind of touch on in the documentary a little bit about how expensive and valuable that real estate is on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, and how many things like the Rainbow from that era have sadly gone by the wayside, and how so many people are so relieved that the Rainbow is still there and completely unchanged. Lita Ford is in it too. She talks about the Rainbow and the fact that she went away and left West Coast for like 15 years and came back and was so excited to see the Rainbow is exactly as she had left it. But they talk about and reference a little bit about the fact that so much of the neighborhood is changing and things are closing and being taken over and more hotels going up and what have you. And you certainly hope that they're talking like that just to show the longevity of the Rainbow and not talking about it in the sense that those offers are coming in for that property. And, usually most places they have their number, and when you hit it, that's that. You can't even comprehend. And I don't think anybody in Southern California could comprehend the Rainbow ever going anywhere, or the whiskey for that matter. But there's overtures in the doc about how so much of the rest of that area has changed. And a lot of historic places were removed, and now hotels or condos sit on what is really, really valuable real estate. Oh, Ozzy is in the doc, too. Ozzy is featured sitting in one of the booths talking about it. So, needless to say, a tremendous amount of history. For people who've never been there, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is. For the longest time, I think people think that it's a concert venue. It is not. But it is a historic rock and roll landmark, bar, restaurant, and the theme across the board from all the artists that are talked to is just how welcoming Mario was since the day he opened it to everybody. You know, regardless of your musical background, your ethnicity, male, female, didn't matter. The doors were always open. He took a lot of artists under his wing and fed them when they had no money, and was just that kind of guy. The only guy he was not welcoming to they touch on this in the doc, that he kind of sniffed out as being, not someone he wanted in the establishment, which, talk about having great instincts, was Charles Manson. That's talked about in the doc, that Charles Manson would come around the Rainbow, and Mario wanted no parts of him. He knew he was trouble and threw him out. And obviously, he was dead on that. So really fascinating, and I'll tell you, it's really cool having watched it to now be a small part of that place and its history by doing these monthly LA invasions from that historic landmark. And it sets the stage nicely for the next one, which is coming on Thursday, which really works out great because the premiere is in LA on Wednesday night with a post party. And then Thursday, I'll be there broadcasting from the patio. And I believe Mario's son, Michael, may jump on the air with me for a few minutes in the first hour from the patio of the Rainbow to talk about this documentary and the plans for its release and a little history of the place. I know I've wanted to do that for the last year or so, but those guys are not necessarily press people, and they don't necessarily like doing those sort of things. But obviously now there's a story to tell with this doc and getting the word out on it. So I think we're going to get Michael on for hopefully a few minutes during the broadcast from the patio on Thursday. But just really, really cool, and really cool timing for that. There are some other things I wanted to mention to you as well. I got some notes here, apparently, and I don't know all the details about this, but I got a few emails and texts about this in the last 24 hours. Apparently, Rat were supposed to play in Tijuana. I guess Guns N' Roses were playing there, and they had a set or an outside area at the venue where there were a bunch of opening acts playing, including Queensryche and Rat and many others, and Rat ended up bailing and not playing for reasons unknown. Some of the stuff online says there was some breach of contract, or Rat was unhappy about something that had happened, but they were supposed to play in a separate venue and a separate stage just before Guns N' Roses closed the night. So there's some speculation about that as to what's going on and why that happened. I don't have any more information about it. Maybe people there that attended will know. Also, there has been a tremendous amount of positive reaction to UFO's current tour, which is out there right now in America and plays in New York. If you remember, a couple years ago, I had Phil Mogg and members of UFO in the studio when the tour played in New York City. And fingers crossed, we'll do that again. I've reached out to the guys about coming in. And if they are able to do it, it would be on October 30th. And if the timing works out, we may do that. I just wanted to put that out there because I know so many people have been calling me, especially last night on the Hair Nation show, about having seen UFO and how great they were and how this is sort of their farewell tour. And people may or may not remember when Phil and the band came in a couple years ago. They don't do many interviews, but it was really a lot of fun. So I put that invite out again, and it is in discussions, and we'll see if that happens. So fingers crossed we can do that. Obviously, one of my all-time favorite bands, and a lot of other people celebrating that. As a matter of fact, while I was away, a lot of other people celebrating the end of UFO, I should say, and the greatness of the band, not the fact that I'm a fan. And I should say this, too. This was a newsy thing at the time it happened, but Kirk Hammett from Metallica getting up and jamming with UFO at their performance in L.A. when the tour first started, which was actually the pre-party for the Mega Cruise as well. And Kirk, as I've said before, and if you've watched that metal show, when I set it up for him to jam with Michael Schenker, a massive UFO fan. So I can't imagine how much fun that must have been for him to get up there and play Dr. Doctor and Shoot with UFO, and there's a bunch of YouTube video of that floating around. So fingers crossed that works out. We'll see.